All right, guys, the name of this sermon is going to be called Strawberries. Strawberries. And it'll make sense later at the end of this why I'm calling it strawberries. You just got to wait. You got to wait and see why I'm calling it this. It's going to make sense. But let me just start out by saying this. Whoever this sermon is for, this sermon is really going to be a very simple message. Simple, straight to the point. And you have to know, whoever this is for, that the problem that you're having, the solution is very simple. It's very simple. It's just that you're making it hard. You're making something so simple so hard. You're making it difficult. You don't have to cry at night. You don't have to be sad and wonder and overthink anymore. It's so simple, but you're making it so hard. And whoever this is for, you're wanting or contemplating a relationship, something that you've probably wanted for quite some time now. But the truth is, the only reason you don't have it is really more so that you are doing things, or in some cases not doing certain things, that are blocking this from happening. And the question for you, simply put, is, do you want the relationship, or do you want it your way? Do you want the relationship, or do you want things your way? See, in relationships, there's give and take. Sometimes you get what you want and sometimes you don't. You come together and work things out and make a few compromises, and you sit down and you talk things out, which is one of the problems you're having right there, is not talking stuff out, lack of communication. But we're going to get there. We're going to get there. Don't you worry. We're going to get into all this. So whoever this is for, the only reason why this isn't coming together, this relationship isn't coming together quite like you want it to, the reason why it seems like you can't figure out how to make this work exactly how you want it to work, it's very simple. It's very simple, but you're making it hard. You're making it difficult. Maybe you're being a drama queen or drama king. You're making this harder than it has to be because you're being so over dramatic. It's being handed to you on a silver platter, but you can't go after it because you're playing all these games and you can't quite get it emotionally together. And really what it comes down to is this. I'll put it to you this way. This is a simple way to look at it. When your heart and your mind finally come together in unity, that's when it's going to work. Your heart knows the truth of the matter. Your heart knows the reality. You know how you really feel. You want to follow your heart, and in many instances, you just can't follow your heart. But for you, for whoever this is for, yeah, you got to follow your heart, but the thing is, your mind is in the way. See, oftentimes it's better to follow our mind and not our heart, but in some cases it's better to follow our heart instead of our mind, because our mind starts playing tricks on us. The enemy uses our own mind against us sometimes because our minds become this battlefield. Y'all remember that song from the 80s by Pat Benatar? Love is a battlefield. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, anyway. That song is the jam. But anyway, it's the jam, but it's not the point. So let me get back to the message. But really for you, love isn't the battlefield, it's your mind. Oh my goodness. It's not, listen, love isn't the battlefield for you. Your mind is the battlefield. You because of terrible, bad past experiences you've had in relationships, you've got it in you something along the lines of love is a battlefield. Maybe you're not saying necessarily that, but you're saying something similar to that. Like, oh, well, that's just how love is, and it's just difficult, and this is what I'm used to. But in reality, it's just your mind. Your mind is your battlefield. Your mind has been your own worst enemy, and that's why you keep asking yourself stuff like, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep screwing this up? I get around certain people. I get around someone that I like, and I'm just mean to them. And it wasn't a big deal back when I was younger, in the days when I was younger, because that's what adults used to say. Adults used to say, oh, well, when somebody's mean to you, it's just because they like you. They don't know how to express themselves properly. So it's just their way of saying that they have a crush on you, right? But now we're adults. And you're still at this place in your mind where you have it in you that when you really, really like somebody, your way of going about it is to always do stuff to purposely push them away. To do something that you really don't want to do. And then later you question yourself, why did I do that? Why did I say that? That's not me. I'm saying stuff that I really don't want to say. It's like I just keep rejecting them, and I don't know why. Okay, let's get into this. Let's just jump right on in. Three things that are problems for people in relationships. Three things that I'm going to go over quickly. Number 1, trust issues. Number 2, lack of communication. Number 3, fear of rejection. Trust issues, lack of communication, and fear of rejection. Real quickly, we'll look into these things. Number 1, trust issues. Oftentimes when people have trust issues and they struggle to trust someone in relationships, a lot of times it all stems back to times of relationships in the past where they may have put their trust into someone. They gave them their whole heart. They gave them their all, and they were let down. Their feelings were hurt. They felt like their heart was just crushed. They felt like they were taken advantage of. They still have this how could you mentality. How could that happen to me? It seemed like I was doing everything right. So why was I done wrong? Blah, 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 right? And so when this happens, especially when it happens more than once, whether you're hurt by the same person numerous times after giving them chance after chance, or maybe you've been hurt by different people that you've given one chance to, and one chance to that person, one chance to that person. When these things happen, but you don't let go of the hurt and you struggle to forgive and you just hold on to that hurt, oftentimes what ends up happening is you want to, or you consider walking into a new relationship with these trust issues, and you expect the other person to just accept it. You expect them to just be okay with the fact that you're always going to be suspicious of them, that you're never really going to trust them. Come on. And you always want to try to make that person feel like they always have to prove to you before and after y'all are in a relationship that they can be trusted. They do these things. They jump through hoops for you. You finally try to get in a relationship with them. And even in the relationship, you still tell them, well, I still don't know if I can trust you. You still haven't proven it to me yet. I still don't know. And they spend so much time trying to prove to you that you can trust them, that they're not out to get you like everyone else was, that they're not actually lying to you when they say they love you, that after a while it's stressful to them. And what happens is, if they leave or threaten to leave, the first thing you want to do is be like, aha, I knew it. You don't really love me. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe you don't say it like that. Maybe you don't say it in an evil villain voice. Aha, I knew it. Maybe you don't say it like that, but still. You get the point. You already have this I knew it mentality. I knew you couldn't be trusted, all because they're tired of it. It's not that they didn't care. It's not that they don't love you. They're just fed up. They're tired of feeling like nothing that they do is ever good enough. And so now you've got them feeling how somebody from your past had you feeling. Oh, goodness. Look at this. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, starting at verse 14, it says this. As also ye have acknowledged us in part, that we are your rejoicing, even as ye also are ours in the day of the Lord Jesus. And in this confidence I was minded to come unto you before, that ye might have a second benefit, and to pass by you into Macedonia, and to come again out of Macedonia unto you, and of you to be brought on my way toward Judea. When I therefore was thus minded, did I use lightness, or the things that I purpose do I purpose according to the flesh, that with me there should be yea, yea, and nay, nay? But as God is true, our word toward you was not yea and nay. Let me stop right there real quick. I love when it says yea and nay in the King James. That's usually what I read, and this what I'm reading right now is King James. Yea and nay, it simply means yes and no, but it's funny to me when it says nay back to back like that, nay, nay, because it sounds like a horse, like nay, nay. Anyway, so, but to get a better understanding of what we just read, I figured it out, but for those that may kind of struggle with it, let me read this from another translation real quick. The Amplified, which says, just as you have already partially known and understood and acknowledged us and recognized that you can honestly be proud of us, even as we can be proud of you on the day of our Lord Jesus, it was with assurance of this that I wanted and planned to visit you first of all, so that you might have a double favor and token of grace or goodwill. I wanted to visit you on my way to Macedonia, and then to come again to you on my return trip from Macedonia, and have you send me forward on my way to Judea. Now, because I changed my original plan, was I being unstable and capricious? Or what I plan, do I plan according to the flesh, like a worldly man, ready to say yes, yes, when it may mean no, no? Look at this. As surely as God is trustworthy and faithful and means what he says, our speech and message to you have not been yes, that it might mean no. So what's being said here is this. Paul saying this as he's talking to the Corinthians, the church of Corinth. Listen, this is just me summing it up here. He's saying, listen, I had these plans set out. You know, I was going to come by and visit with you guys again, and I had the route all drawn out of how and when and what time to come by and see you. And you got to understand that sometimes plans fall through. But you got to understand that just because maybe I don't get to visit with you when I plan something out, maybe I have to come a different route, or maybe I have to come by a different day or during a different time. Just because plans fall through and plans change, that doesn't mean that what I have to say and what I stand for changes. What I was going to say, what I was going to preach to you is still the same thing. I have the same message. In other words, don't think that because plans fall through that I'm being wishy-washy or double-minded. I still have the same thing to say. I still feel the same way about y'all. It's all good, but don't misunderstand this, because this happens. It's a part of life. That's how it is. But don't misunderstand. What I still have to say is the same. In other words, I'm not somebody that if I'm saying yes, I'm saying it at a time where I really mean no, or when I'm saying no, I'm saying it at a time where I really mean yes. I'm not someone that's gonna throw out a yes or a no when really it's a maybe, or I'm not gonna say a maybe when I already know it's a yes or a no. He's saying, I'm saying exactly what I mean, But just in case you may struggle to believe that, keep in mind that I am sent by the Lord. And we know that God, the God that we serve, he is trustworthy. He is dependable. What he says goes because he means what he says. So if the one that sent me isn't wishy-washy, if the one that sent me is not double-minded, if the one that sent me says yes when he means yes and no when he means no, then you can be rest assured that what I have to say to you when I finally get to you, what I have to say is still going to be the same thing. It's not going to change based off of time, place, day, location. It's still going to be the same. I'm still going to feel the same about you. I still have the same thing to say. It's not going to change. In other words, just because something doesn't play out the way you felt like it should play out, it doesn't have to mean that I'm not trustworthy and that I'm going to switch up what I have to say. Because of the one who sent me. I say that to say this. Oftentimes, we get done wrong. We have these trust issues, right? And instead of trying to find someone, we pray to God, Lord, send the one, or show me the one, or give me the one, you know. But at the end of the day, we may not all pray it the same, but we're saying the same thing. Lord, I know that you have somebody for me, right? Okay. So if you know who is the one, or you believe you know that you've come across the one that is just the one that God has for you, why do you hold those trust issues from what people of the past did to you against this person? You've already got it decided in your mind that they can't be trusted, but you at the same time are believing that this person that you're saying you don't know if you can trust them is the one that God has for you. But if they're the one that God has for you and you trust God, which you should because you know that he is trustworthy, then why do you have such a problem giving a simple chance to the one that you believe is God sent? Okay. Listen, there are some of you right now that just upon hearing that right now, you could probably just turn this whole sermon off. That right there is something all by itself. That's a sermon all by itself right there. That little bit was enough for some people to tune in right there. That right there should just shut down the nonsense, the battlefield that's going on in your head right now. It's one thing if it's somebody that you picked out and you know they ain't no good. You just picked them out just because they look good, or you just picked them out because they have money, or you just picked them out because they got a cool car or whatever. You just picked them out because you heard from so-and-so around the way that they were good in bed. That's your shenanigans. That's your nonsense. But if it's not, listen, if it's somebody that you believe is the one that God has for you, then why are you treating them like those no good folks that did you wrong in the past? It's like saying you don't trust God even though you say that you trust God. And if you didn't, then why would you be praying to him for... Okay. Next thing on the list, other than the trust issues, like I said, just going through this quickly. After trust issues, there was lack of communication. Sometimes lack of communication ties in with trust issues, but it doesn't always have to. But some people, they have lack of communication. And when lack of communication comes into a relationship, you have this thing called silent assumption a lot of times. You're quiet. You don't tell anybody that you're in a relationship with. You don't tell them how you're feeling or what's wrong, but you always want them to assume what's wrong. You always want them to assume or figure out on their own what you want all the time. You're mad at them, but you don't want to tell them why, but you want them to figure it out. You're sad about something that might not have anything to do with them, and you want them to be sensitive to the fact that you're sad, but you don't want to tell them what's wrong, but you want them to just try to figure it out. Then you're having your days where you want to be left alone, but instead of just saying, today I just need some me time, what do? You snap on the person, you push them away, you're mean to them, you got them thinking that they did something wrong, or that you don't want to be with them, and then you get mad at them for feeling that way, but you won't just simply just tell them, hey, I just need a moment to just sit here and think for a minute. You want them to assume stuff. You want them to play this mind reader game, right? You don't communicate. You just want them to already know stuff or already figure stuff out. It's almost as if you act like if they're the one, they have to be able to read my mind. And so what happens is when they come to you gently and nicely trying to talk to you, you're rude and you push them away. But then when they stay away too long, now you're mad because they're staying away too long. So now you're suspicious of them. Well, what are they doing? Who are they hanging with? Who are they talking to? Why haven't they came by to check on me yet? Now you're sad. Now you're upset. How come? Blah, blah, blah. I saw them on Facebook just hanging out at a friend's house. They weren't doing nothing wrong, but I'm mad because when they saw that I was down and sad, they went on and hung out with friends and were happy. They should be sad here with me, even though I won't talk to them, even though I won't tell them what's wrong. You're screwed if you do and screwed if you don't. That's how it is for them. Everything is just wrong. Everything they do is wrong. They're wrong when they try to talk to you. When they leave you alone for too long, they're wrong for doing that. They try to be nice to you, then they're too nice. They're too sweet. Then if they do get a little upset, oh, you're being just like the people that did me wrong in the past. You always wait till you're feeling some type of way to let them know how you feel, but you do it in a negative way. So you're leaving them frustrated. Lack of communication. Lack of communication. You can't keep pushing somebody away and always expect them to figure it out. Always trying to play a mind game with somebody. Look at this. Where are we at here? Matthew chapter 5, verse 37 says, this is Jesus speaking. It says, but let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh evil. So now you see the yea and nay theme again. Well, you're going to keep seeing this throughout this sermon. You're going to keep coming across it because it's really that simple. Say what you mean what you say, yes or no. Just make it plain. Talk things out. Tell people what's wrong. Talk it out. Say what you mean what you say. Yes or no, not maybe. Get to it. I'll say it again. I'll read it again. But let your communication be yes and yes or no and no. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. And finally, the third thing is fear of rejection. You know, a lot of people, if you ask them what one of the things that causes problems in relationships is, they'll more than likely probably tell you either trust issues or lack of communication, and those are some hindrances. But in my opinion, this one right here, fear of rejection, is probably the biggest one. This is probably the one that just has the worst effect on a relationship. And you may say, well, how can that be so? How can fear of being rejected be worse than trust issues or worse than lack of communication? How does that cause that much damage in a relationship compared to those two? Simple. Because Fear of rejection can cause problems in a relationship, but here's the thing: fear of rejection keeps relationships from happening altogether. In other words, it can stop a relationship from even starting in the first place. Before you get to the trust issues rising up in you from relationships of the past, and before the lack of communication starts in the relationship, before all that can even happen, fear of rejection can step in. Come on. And it can cut short the relationship, it can stop it, it can detour it, delay it. That's why, to me, it's one of the biggest issues, if not the biggest, one of the biggest problems in relationships, because it can stop it altogether. It can shut it down from the start. Fear of rejection. It can keep a good thing from happening. You may say, well, what do you mean? Fear of rejection. Simply that. Fear, being afraid of being rejected by someone. I'm going to share with you right now why I'm calling this strawberries. I don't know if any of you know who Steve Harvey is, the comedian Steve Harvey. He did stand-up comedy for some years, and he had his own sitcom on the WB channel. I remember seeing that growing up. And it seemed like for a while you didn't really hear a whole lot about Steve Harvey, but then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it seemed like Steve Harvey was everywhere. He was hosting everything, hosting the Family Feud, hosting Little Big Shots, hosting different TV shows, and then he gets his own like daytime talk show, the Steve Harvey Show, and he's just everywhere, hosting pageants, beauty pageants and stuff. Real funny guy. Well, some people may not know, those that see him on TV may not know that he also has his own radio show, the Steve Harvey Morning Show. And he mentioned this in one of his stand-up specials that I heard years ago. He mentioned that he had a radio show, and he said that everybody's favorite part of his radio show was a segment that he does called the Strawberry Letter. That's why this is called Strawberry, so just keep listening. The Strawberry Letter. And I remember hearing him talk about this show and the Strawberry Letter, but I had never really sat down to try to listen to any of the show, even though I wanted to, because I'm thinking, it sounds like something that'd be pretty funny. So for a long time of never really getting around to listening to it, this month, that's what I've been doing this month. I've been taking advantage of this really awesome thing that we know and love called YouTube. And I've been listening to some uploads that people have posted up of the Strawberry Letter. And I got to tell you, it's funny, it's hilarious, it tickles me. Basically what it is, Steve, him and this woman named Shirley Strawberry, they host his show. And then there's a certain part of the show, a segment, where they let people who listen to the show write a letter to give to them. And they basically ask Steve and Shirley for advice on something going on in their life. And people will send in the craziest letters of just the craziest stuff. You just have to listen to some of it. But it's funny, the advice that they give. But anyway, they pull out a letter. On every show, when they do the Strawberry Letter, they pull out a letter, and they'll read that one letter, and they'll take turns giving advice to the person who wrote the letter. So, like I said, I've been listening, and I came across this one upload on YouTube of the Strawberry Letter, and it was titled, "In Love with My Professional Friend." And the way that the Strawberry Letter segment starts out is Shirley, she'll read the letter, and then she'll give her advice, and then Steve, he'll go back over the letter and give his advice. Shirley is usually more serious when it comes to her advice, even though she has her silly moments herself. But Steve, of course, being the comedian he is, even though sometimes he gives really good advice, he spends more time like joking and kind of clowning the person that wrote the letter more so than really helping. But it's all fun. It's all fun and games. You know you're gonna get clowned when you write to Steve anyway, so you can't get mad at Steve Harvey. What do you expect? So in this particular one, this woman, she titles the letter "In Love with My Professional Friend." And Shirley reads this letter, and the woman in the letter is saying this. She's saying, I've got this job, and I have this friend that we both work at this job, and sometimes we have to go on these business trips together. And sometimes going on these long trips, we have to share a hotel room together, sometimes even sleep in the same bed together. She said, but here's the thing, I really like this guy. I really like my professional friend, as she calls him. And she says, but the thing is, I really want to try to make a move on him. But the crazy thing is, after all these different times that we've been in the same bed together, he's never tried anything. And she means sexually. She's like, he's never tried to make any moves, any advances on me. And it worries me because I feel like maybe it might be a sign that he's not into me, but I've never had a guy turn me down in the bedroom before. These are her words. This is what this woman is saying in the letter. I've never been turned down by a guy in the bedroom before. Never. But I really want to try to make a move. But the thing is, I'm the type of girl that I really want the guy to make the first move. And, you know, she's saying all this stuff. And she says what it really comes down to is, I guess I'm just afraid of being rejected. Because I've never been rejected. I've never been turned down before. And first off, let me say this. Obviously, somebody should chime in and be like, well, you know, you don't need to be fornicating in the first place. You should be trying to wait till you're married for that. But of course, it's a secular radio show. So nobody's really chiming in to say that, but whatever. But upon listening, the first thing that came to my mind was maybe the guy isn't trying to flirt or make any moves, so to speak, because maybe he's just as afraid as the woman is. Maybe he does like her, but maybe he's afraid, just as afraid of rejection as she is, and maybe she hasn't thought about it. So when Shirley starts giving her advice and giving her opinion, she said the same thing that I had been thinking. She says, did you consider that maybe he has a fear of rejection just like you do? And maybe that's why he hasn't tried to flirt or make a move? And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, exactly. But let me pause and say this real quick before I continue on. At this moment, I began to realize that the fear of rejection can work a couple of different ways. For some people, the fear of rejection works the same way that it is done with this woman in this letter. You have some women who, maybe because of their good looks or whatever, they're used to getting any guy that they want. And so a lot of times that's what they do. They may use their body or try to use their sex appeal or use some smooth words and some flirtation and some seduction to try to get what they want. And maybe that's all they know because that's all that's worked for them. They haven't really had to use their mind or their personality that much, if at all. And so when they come across somebody that they think might just turn them down, and it's somebody that they actually like they're not just attracted to them, but they actually like them, like they think that they may have an actual legit chemistry, they may have things in common. Their personality might just match. They might just get along good and the person might just treat them well. If something in them makes them think they might be rejected, they'll walk away from someone that would be so good to them. Even if it meant one day they walk outside, they get hit by a bus, they get set on fire, they get stabbed and cut all up in the face. I'm just making up stuff, but you get the point. Get stabbed in the eye, lose an eye. They get to a point where they will let somebody who, no matter what happens to their outer appearance, they let a person like that go. Someone who wouldn't care if they were disfigured, or, like I said, they got cut up in the face, or they suddenly weren't as good looking anymore. They would turn down someone like that who would really love them for what's on the inside, even if their outside suddenly drastically changed. And they'll go right on after somebody else who probably would care less about them. They just want them for their looks, but they'll go after them because they think, oh, well, I know they won't turn me down because I know they want what they see. So they miss out on something good. They miss out on someone great, all because they're so used to not being rejected. Suddenly they have this fear of rejection. That right there is one of the ways that people miss out on good relationships. Good relationships won't even start because someone has a fear of rejection because they're used to not being rejected. And so now their ego has been hyped up. Their arrogance has been pumped up. And the last thing they want to do is experience being turned down, possibly turned down by someone, especially not someone that they really like, because they haven't experienced it before, or they're not used to experiencing it. However, on the flip side, there are people who are the exact opposite. There are people who they have a fear of rejection, but it's not because they're used to not being rejected. It's because they have gotten so used to being rejected years and years by different people, not just in relationships, but just even in friendships, in different areas of their life. They've been so used to being rejected and let down and hurt and betrayed. They've been so used to it that the last thing they want is to encounter somebody that they feel like might just be the one and get turned down by that person too. So you've got the people that are like the woman in the letter. They got a fear of rejection because they're used to not being rejected. But then you got people who have a fear of rejection because they are used to being rejected, and they just can't take it anymore. And it really stirred up something in me listening to it once I pondered on that, because that is something that I know that God has been dealing with me on. See, what a lot of people don't realize is there's such a fear of rejection that I've had when it comes to relationships. And there are some people who know me on a personal level who would be surprised to hear that I would even have that issue. You see, it's not that people have never really tried to talk to me, but here's the thing: when people find out that I really mean it when I say I want to wait till marriage. See, some people think it's a joke. Some people think it's a game. Some people take it as a challenge. When you get to a point where you decide, you know what, I want to try to do this the right way. I want to wait until marriage to have sex. I don't want to just be out here fornicating and messing around with any and everybody. When you make that decision, people will scram fast. In fact, years ago, somebody even messaged me one time online asking me out. let me know that they were interested. And I was upfront with them because I had a feeling about it. I told them up front, okay, we can go out. That'd be cool. But I just want you to know up front that, you know, I let them know up front that I really was serious about waiting. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're just like, oh, no, you misunderstood. I'm not trying to ask you out or anything. I'm not trying to get with you or anything. They literally went from asking me out to saying, no, you misunderstood. I'm not asking you out. As if I can't scroll back up to the start of the conversation and read them specifically say, it's one thing to talk to somebody face to face and tell them something and then be like, oh, you misunderstood what I said, because then you'll be scratching your head thinking, wait, did I misunderstand what they said? But when it's typed and you can go back and reread what they said, you know what I mean? It's kind of different, You can't just be like, no, that's not what I meant, when that's clearly what you meant, because I can reread it, But I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad at the person at all. I was just thinking to myself, this is a good thing. I'm glad I made the decision to start waiting, because I'm seeing true colors in people. I'm seeing what people are about. This is a good thing, because I'd been used in the past before where people would pretend that they really wanted a relationship, but when they got the sex that they wanted, they just moved on. So now suddenly people that were coming my way start backing on up. And there are people that, like I said, they take it as a challenge, but when they see I'm serious and I'm not just saying it to try to look like, a better Christian, they see that I'm not saying it to front, if you will. They just kind of back up. And so people take that as a way to try to label me as somebody who is stuck up, somebody who is hard to get with, somebody who, even people will label me as some type of a player. I'm not someone to be taken serious, because I'm not taking anybody serious. So because I do take a person serious and I want to respect them and respect their body and not just use them for sex, now I get labeled as a user or a player, which makes no sense, but that you got to understand, though, and I'm not offended by it, because it's reality. That's how the world works. That's how the world operates. We as Christians, we're in the world, but we're not of the world, and that's how the world operates. You try to do things the right way, in a way that a lot of people around you are not, and people of the world, and even some Christians, will look at you a certain type of way, because they're reminded of what they're not doing right by you trying to do something right, and they don't like it. So now you've got to be labeled with all these negative labels that you're not, but they'll put them on you anyway and try to make you out to be someone who thinks that they're better than someone else. So anyway, fear of rejection. But let me go on to share this. The woman in the letter did say, well, the guy, he has an ex that he says that, he gets along with, he has no ill feelings towards her, they still get along, but I don't view her as a threat. And then she goes on also to say, I really like this guy. I really, really want this guy. I really, really want him. So when she goes on to say that she really wants him, not just for the sex, but actually really wants him, and when she goes on to say, okay, I know that there is somebody that I could look at as a threat, but I don't look at them as a threat, someone who he used to be in a relationship with, that right there are indicators, like I said, that maybe it's not just about sex with this guy that she's wanting. Maybe she actually wants a relationship too if she's bringing into question whether or not there's someone that could be in a competition for a relationship with the guy. You see what I'm saying? So it's like she's dropping hints that it's more than just wanting the sex. She's wanting more than just that. Possibly a relationship. But to start it out, and this is what I realized, this is what I thought of, her starting out the letter talking about trying to get with him sexually shows that that's what she knows. That if she really likes him, the key to winning his heart is to take advantage of the fact that they're in bed together and to try to be with him sexually. See, there are some people that's all they know, and I'm not downing anybody. I'm just saying that there are some people that's all they know. All they know is that. All they know is to try to win over somebody's heart, to try to get somebody to like them, to try to get somebody to fall in love with them, all solely on sex, all solely based on how good looking they are, or how good looking they think they are, or how good looking other people have told them they are. That's all they know. They've got it in their head that no one cares that much about personality. No one cares that much about values and morals and dignity or respect or honor. Because so many people, and let's be honest, so many people in society nowadays, that's how they are. They don't care as much about that stuff. They put it on the back burner and care more about sex appeal and being able to have that trophy wife or that trophy husband that they can walk around with and have people jealous of them, saying, oh, she got him, oh, she got her, or he got her. Oh, look. They just want to get with the one that they think everybody else will be jealous of. Oh, well, if I get him or if I get her, people will be jealous of me when they see that person on my arm. I'm going to show my haters something. I'm going to show my enemies something. I'm going to show them girls that talk about me and spread rumors about me something. When I get this guy right here, they're going to be hating. They ain't going to know what to say. I can get the one that they can't get. They can't talk then. Right? So we put things on the back burner, and then we wonder why we get in relationships with people that are abusive, that put their hands on us, right? Because we didn't see warning signs, or we ignored warning signs that people weren't going to treat us right. We went after them for the wrong reasons. And we all do it based off of what we know, what we've seen work, what we have experienced has worked in the past. And for so many people, it's just sex. So you try to have just a regular conversation where you really want to get to know them, and it scares them. It's scary to them to come across somebody that really just wants to sit down and talk. Not talking that leads to getting in the bed, but talking that leads to, okay, where does this go from here? Do we think this is going to work? Do we think this is going to last? If so, let's talk about spending more time together. If so, let's talk about meeting each other's friends and family. If so, let's talk about possibly getting married. For so many people, that's off the table. I'll share this with you, and I'll be done. A friend of mine, years ago, I hadn't seen him in quite some time, and then I ran into him one day, and we were talking, and he was catching me up on things in his life, and he was telling me that he had just got married, and I was asking him about how that was going and everything, and he poured out his whole story of how he finally got to be the man that he was. He said this, he said, back in the day, you know me, I was always just dating somebody, always on a date, dating different girls, seeing what's out there. He said, and when I would date I would just tell girls what they wanted to hear. And y'all know how it is. There are some people that are like that. You go on a date with them, they don't really go into much about what they do and don't like, because all they want to do is hear what you do and don't like, and then they try to base their personality off of what you said. In other words, they become what they think you want based off of what you do and don't like. So he was saying, yeah, I would just be quiet and listen to what they had to say. And I would just say what I thought they wanted to hear when I finally would talk. And he said, I would just do that and just, just be that guy that was just what any girl wanted, just to get in their pants. And he said, one day I just got tired of it. I got sick of it. And I decided that I was going to start being honest. I was just going to tell the truth and be myself. That way I could probably find somebody that I really wanted to be with, not just for the sex, not just because of their appearance, but let me try to find somebody that's going to actually be good to me and not leave me and not cheat on me, somebody I can settle down with. So he said he would start going on dates and he would be for real. He would be serious. He would be honest about who he was. He said, I was so serious and so honest to the point where if somebody I was on a date said something that I thought was stupid, I would flat out tell them, hey, I'm sorry, but I think that's kind of stupid. He said, I was very honest, and there were girls that got offended, but there were some who appreciated my honesty. If you've got a fear of rejection, you've got to understand that there's going to be some people that probably will reject you, but there's going to be some that they are going to appreciate your honesty. They're going to appreciate you being you, and they're going to actually like you for who you are. And that will take the connection and the chemistry that y'all have to a whole nother level. So he said, finally, I met someone. She liked me for me. I liked her for her. We were honest with each other. We hit it off. We got married. And I've never been happier. There has to come a point where we put all the pettiness aside. Trust issues, lack of communication, fear of rejection. It's a reality. It's there. But you've got to overcome it. You've got to overcome it. Let the past be the past so that you can let go of the trust issues. Let your yay be yay and your nay be nay. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. And say it. Say what you mean what you say. There's communication so that you don't have lack of communication. And finally, any type of rejection that you have, or fear of rejection that you have, whether it be because you're not used to being turned down or because you are used to be turned down, you've got to let it go. Don't let that fear hinder you. Don't let it hinder you. Don't let it hinder you. Oftentimes, we do this thing in James 5:12 where we want to make these oaths. Oh, I swear, blah, 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 blah. I swear, man, I promise, I'm telling you. We say all these things when we're scared that someone is going to reject what we're saying and not going to believe us and turn us down. But instead, just like it says in that verse, James 5:12, we've got to just say yes or say no, and that's it. In other words, we don't have to beg or plead for someone to believe us. Either they'll believe it or they won't. But if they don't, maybe they don't deserve you. Something to think about. Heavenly Father, I thank you for another time to minister another word. I pray that this message would reach those that would need it. Lord, I pray that we would overcome trust issues, lack of communication, and fear of rejection. Lord, I pray that people that you have ordained to be together would come together, letting go of all fears, letting go of all hurts of the past, and that we would all be ourselves, that we would all be who you've created us to be, so that we can be even greater in our relationships. And Lord, I pray that you are glorified above all of our issues. Lord, I give you all the praise, the glory, and the honor. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.